Welcome to Emotions and Eating with Nicola-beer. Nicola controlled her feelings using food for 25 years, so she knows how draining it is to be constantly thinking about or acting out with food. Thankfully, having made an amazing breakthrough in her recovery, her mission became about helping others escape the unsatisfying cycle of frustration and self-medication with food. Nicola is determined to help you find your inner strength so you can be healthy, gain confidence, feel great, and be at peace with yourself and food.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola-beer and I'm so happy that you are here with me in episode 11 where I'm going to be sharing what is emotional eating and what is compulsive eating. Now, you may think that it's obvious and maybe for you it is. However, I was out the other day and a lady asked me more about my programs. She'd heard that I'd helped a couple of her friends free themselves from anorexia and bulimia, and she wanted to know if I could help her. And she said to me, but could you just explain to me what emotional eating and what compulsive eating is? And I thought, that's a really good point. Maybe listeners of my show would like to hear a little bit more about what emotional eating and compulsive eating is. So that's why I decided to create this episode, because I feel if more people are aware of it, more people are going to come free, the less obesity hopefully we'll have in society, and the less eating disorders we'll have in society. And the more people will be feeling peace with their body, peace around food, and freedom. And that's why I created my business, Pure Peace. Pure Peace Coaching is about supporting people to have peace when it comes to their bodies, eating, and their relationship with food. So before I get into it, I just want to have a quick say thank you to all the people that have left a rating or review or have emailed into me to share with me how much you are enjoying the show. It really means so much to me. And if you do have a minute after the show to share it or to leave another rating or review, for those of you that haven't, or those of you that would like to do it again, I would be so grateful. The reason for that is because I really want people to get this support. I suffered for 25 years having absolutely no support, and very few people talk about emotional eating. So I'm hoping to change that, and if you would help me in that journey, it would be really appreciated. So let me describe a client that I was working with. They've given me permission if I change their name, so that's what I've decided to do. Lucy was sitting alone one night after a long day watching Netflix on TV. She's watching an American sitcom and it's becoming really addictive. The storyline is fascinating, the plot is gripping, and watching it makes it feel like she has been transported away from her realities of her everyday life. Even if it's just for 30 to 60 minutes a day, she feels she is escaping from life. She lusts over the gorgeous men, daydreams about the beautiful large open-plan houses they live in, and wonders if she will ever be as slim as these glamorous women on TV are. Lucy's mind then thinks of her favourite skinny jeans at the bottom of her closet, gathering dust, waiting for the day to be triumphantly paraded again. The show comes to an abrupt break with annoying adverts and prompts a quick run to the kitchen to grab something to eat. She knows she's not hungry, but grabs a packet of biscuits and dashes back before the interval is over. She'll just have one. But one turns into 2 biscuits, and 2 turns into 3 biscuits. And before the adverts have even finished, she's halfway through the biscuits. And then a few seconds in, and she's demolished the entire packet. The show goes on where the scene of one of the girls is on a date. She looks so good, so sexy, with perfect hair and a perfect body and expensive clothes. In fact, she's so perfect, it's irritating. Lucy heads back to the kitchen and raids the cupboards. There are no more biscuits or treats. In fact, the biscuits were meant to be for guests only. She knows she cannot trust herself to have that kind of food in the house. But how could she make the mistake with the biscuits? She made a note to herself not to buy biscuits for guests again, because she knew, really, she would probably eat them. So she grabs a cereal box and a large bowl and a carton of milk. She's feeling annoyed at herself already for eating the biscuits, but can't stop. She can't seem to stop herself digging into the cereals. And she can't seem to get the milk to cereal ration right. Do you know what I mean by that? The more cereal she puts in, the more milk is needed. Then it's too milky. Then she needs a bit more cereals. Then she needs a bit more milk. And then it needs a bit more cereal. And before you know it, she's pouring larger and larger bowls. And the box is almost gone. Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that it's so common today for people to eat when they are not physically hungry. In fact, far more people than we realise eat for emotional reasons than for physical hunger. If this is you and you find yourself eating when you're not hungry and eating far more than you know you should or want to, I want to say that this is actually a worldwide phenomenon, especially in the Western world. Secondly, I want you to understand that, as was the case in this story, when something bothers you, upsets you, irritates you, or makes you feel like life's not fair, or makes you feel bad about yourself, how you look and what your life is like, or not like, it's really easy to fill that void with food rather than face it. Rather than to face what has irritated you and deal with it. You see, research now shows us that there is a connection between food and stress. And when we are stressed, we eat more. And we're more likely to seek high-calorie foods or junk food that we know doesn't serve our nutritional needs. After all, no one ever eats 10 apples in one go when they are stressed, do they? Well, in my experience working with countless men and women to change their eating habits, I haven't come across that. Unfortunately, the annoying reality is that when we do eat, we are stressed and we store more fat than if we ate when we were relaxed. Unfortunately, that is how our bodies work. So not only do we eat the wrong food, and by the wrong food I mean food that is probably not healthy for us when we're stressed, we also store more fat, according to biologists and scientists. So to find this even simpler, emotional eating is eating junk food when you're not hungry and when something is bothering you. Emotional eating is eating when you want to escape something. It's eating when you are lonely, when you are fearful, when you are trying to deal with something. And it could be any emotion. For me, the biggest emotional triggers are fears. Fears related to relationships, related to finances, related to the future. So the next time you are tempted to reach for food and you know you're not hungry, ask yourself, what is going on right now? What are you feeling that is propelling you towards the kitchen? What is bothering you? Also pay attention to what is it that you crave. Do you always crave the same type of foods? Or is it different foods that you crave at different times? The thing that can be useful to ask yourself is it sugar I crave or something else? Louise Hay, one of the founders of the self-help movement, talks about how often people who are addicted to sugar just want more sweetness in their life. So how do you get more sweetness in your life? Could be a question that you want to explore and go about creating a strategy and a plan for. For a lot of people, to create more sweetness in their life, it's about learning to love yourself more. And I talk about this in my free 5-day audio challenge, How to Stop Emotional Eating, Yo-Yo Dieting and Analysing Every Bite without the fear of putting on more weight or losing control or ending back where you started. If any of this is resonating with you, then I invite you to perhaps keep a journal or type in your phone some of your feelings in a notepad and get some insight into what you eat and why you eat. And for 3 days, just write down what you're eating, what time it is, who you're with, how you feel before, and how you're feeling after eating it. So these 5 things. I'm going to say them again, and if you want to grab a pen and paper, then you can do that. It's really, what are you eating? Okay, which is pretty straightforward. Okay, let's say I'm eating a sandwich. What time is it? 10:30 at night. Who are you with? Alone. How do you feel before? Stressed. How do you feel after eating it? Guilty, and just trying to remember how I used to feel. Happy for the temporary distraction. That was my pattern. Sometimes it was cake, sometimes it was cereals, sometimes it was chocolate, and then other times I went through times where I was literally just living on water and wouldn't eat at all. So reflect by asking yourself, if the foods you eat when you are in that moment could fix something in your life, what would that be? What could you fix? To be honest, when I used to overeat, I think I really felt lonely, and I wanted something to fill the time, to fill the hole, and fear. Loneliness and fear were mine. But I've worked with lots of people, and another guy I was working with last week, he had rage. Rage was one of his, he was just, everything used to send him to his rage. His relationship was not working out and that made him angry. His boss was making him angry. The road, drivers on the road were making him angry. And so rage made him eat. Another man I worked with was eating because he just felt stressed. He had so much work stress, and he was flying everywhere for his job, and in between hotels and airports and flights, he just would distract himself with food, and for that moment he was eating, he forgot about the stress. Another lady that I worked with, she was emotional eating because after her breakup with her husband of 16 years, she just felt like food was a comfort. Food was the only thing that she had to look forward to. And so a lot of her thoughts were focused around what she was going to be eating from one day to the next. With regards to Lucy watching the glamorous sitcom to escape her life and make her happier, it actually had the opposite effect. Now, I'm not saying don't watch TV. Of course I'm not saying that. It's just good to be aware of these triggers. While she was sat there yearning to live in a bigger home, have the man of her dreams by her side, and to look and feel better about herself and the way she looked, she felt worse. The irony is, by gorging on food when she wasn't hungry, by comparing herself to the other women, by feeding her tiredness and low mood with food, she was no closer to feeling better about herself physically. And emotionally, she was left with a huge big pile of guilt. If I could leave you with one bit of wisdom or advice from this episode today, it would be, please don't be hard on yourself. If you've been eating for emotional reasons, most of us do it. In fact, I would say nearly everybody does it at times. And I did it for decades, and it's a vicious trap to be stuck in. We can easily fall into such patterns, especially when we are angry, lonely, and tired. But no matter what is going on in your life right now, you can change it. We're not born to eat more than we need. We're not born to eat when bored, or to stuff our feelings down with food. We learned it. So before you head to the kitchen and snack, stop and give yourself the gift of listening to yourself. Ask yourself, what am I really wanting right now? Maybe it's a hug. Maybe it's a more interesting activity to do. Maybe it's something to stimulate your mind. Maybe you need sleep. Maybe you need water. Maybe you need connection with another person. I know when I finally managed to break the destructive pattern I was in, I never felt so free and so happy. In fact, I felt great. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. So start today, right now. Don't fall into the trap of putting it off for another day. You deserve to feel good. So the two things to take away from today is not to beat yourself up, because that's just going to repeat the cycle. And unfortunately, it does repeat the cycle for many people. And the second thing is just to pause and just to stop yourself and say, what am I wanting to eat for? Am I bored? Am I tired? Am I lonely? Am I angry? So I mentioned to you about a 5-part audio that you can get. And this audio is really a transformation of how to break free from emotional eating. It is a 5-day challenge, and when you sign up, you get 5